Hey, everybody, welcome to Away Games, a Chicago Cubs podcast hosted by two stand-up comedians who live in New York. I'm one of them. I'm Adam Amawala. I am in New York. And the other is Kevin McCaffrey. He is closer to a home game.
I am, yeah. It's home game. I'm on a homestand right now. I'm in Chicago as we speak. I guess as this one is as this episode's coming out, I will have just finished up doing Zanies in Chicago, and then I'm doing Zanies in.
Plug it anyway.
I'm plugging it anyway. You know, you should have gone. And we did have people who went. You know what? We had a pretty good Away Games presence yesterday, or the Monday at Zanies. I don't know. The Tuesday show is still in my future, so I don't know who showed up then. But Monday we had Ken Schultz, friend of the show. Obviously, friend of the show, friend of your people out there, and then our friend Tyler. Yep, exactly. He showed up as well at Tater 2650. So it was a pretty good pretty good Away Games hangout on Monday, and then I'm in St. Charles, Illinois at the Zanies this upcoming Thursday through Saturday, and Champaign, Illinois next Friday. I'm all over it. So home games, kind of home games all around with our day job doing stand up.
Are you at least popular enough to do the seventh inning stretch of the Chicago Dogs game?
I mean, honestly, the real answer to that is yes. like I am.
You should at least get like a Kane County Cougars game in there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I could definitely. I'm not trying to toot horns here, but I'm on TV kind of a lot, so it's like that is enough to be a dog to be able to do the seventh inning stretch for the Dogs. I should reach out, just if nothing else, to meet the man who adorns one of my relatively few Cubs jerseys, Carlos Zambrano.
Totally. Well, every year that they push back the Cubs having the All-Star game, I feel a small bit of hope that I will somehow be famous enough to participate in the celebrity softball game.
Yes,
that's my goal.
I think that's a solid goal, and it's like it really, we know at least two people who we're friends with who have done it. It's not that far away. It's not that unreachable.
Yeah, because I mean, clearly the people involved, like there are some solid like B and C list people on those teams. So I don't, I'm not saying I'm going to be like a movie star, but if I can be, some ancillary character on a TV show and then tell my agent, I love the Cubs, make this fucking happen.
Yes, I think that is within a optimistic yet reasonable realm of possibility.
Right.
So yeah, and then it's a good time to talk about that stuff because it's a all-star. I was gonna say all-star weekend. Baseball doesn't really have an all-star weekend. Baseball has an all-star beginning of the week, basically. Yeah. Did you get to watch any of the home run derby?
I did. I watched it after the fact, but I did watch it in its entirety after I got home from a show that I did. And holy shit, man, it really it keeps getting better. And I think last night, I lucked out being there last year to see two Cubs do it. And also, I would have liked for Schwarber to have won, but to see Harper win in DC was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. But it was, last night was unbelievable. The round between Jock Peterson and Vlad Jr. was just like I don't even have the words for it.
I think the best, the best single rounds in history. They both did. Yeah. They both surpassed Josh Hamilton. And now Hamilton was working with a different format too. Mm-hmm. So, but as far as homers in the single round go, both Jock and Vlad got it.
Well, and similar to the Hamilton home run derby, I think to a lesser extent, like. Everyone remembers Hamilton doing that, and very few people remember that Justin Morneau actually won. Right. I think to a lesser extent, this will be remembered as the Vlad Jr. contest more so than like, oh yeah, Pete Alonso won.
Totally.
And he was great and deserving, but like this was the Vlad show.
Yeah, it was a Vlad show and kind of the Vlad and Jock show. Jock was amazing too. Jock really is a perfect home run derby swing. It's like that guy just hits the ball up, But I did appreciate Alonso very much, doing a lot of getting the crowd into it. He had a good, waving the crowd up, getting them on their feet. He was a good showman about it. So and he can hit the shit out of the ball too. So that's fun.
He was really impressive, and both he and even more so than him, Acuna. He was going like the Aaron Judge route where he was just doing it like batting practice, hitting bombs to like straight right field.
Yeah.
If you saw Acuna's like spray chart, it was insane.
Acuna's making sure that batting practice pitcher can't lock in on one location,
No, seriously, he was just going with the pitch. I've never seen anything quite like that in a derby, because most guys, I guess less so now that it's timed, but like back in the day where you only had 10 swings, these guys were waiting for that exact location, and they would take 10 pitches right down the middle until they got that one that they liked.
Right.
It's such a better format. Oh my God. It used to be, it was always fun, but like it was so boring to just watch guys take a bunch of pitches waiting for the perfect pitch. So I feel like they've really figured it out here.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a good. It's a really good event. The home run derby is a really good event. I watched some of it because the show I was doing conflicted with it, but we got it on in the we got it on the TV in the Zanies green room. So I was checking it out in between, and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, it was great. And then I guess by the time you all hear this, the All-Star game will have happened, and presumably Javi and Wilson and KB will all have homered in all of their at-bats.
That would be very nice. I think it'd be the first time ever with 3 teammates homered in an All-Star game. I mean, Wilson has quite a, he was first the man pitch last year. Yeah, so let's do it again.
I think the one thing that I would love even more than any of that is for there to be like a dribbler hit to KB, because it's in Cleveland. So to be able to make that kind of play would be pretty cool. And I mean, Buck will be calling it, I assume.
Yeah, that's true. If Rizzo was in this game like he rightfully should be, that would have been a very fun thing to recreate.
This is going to be a tough play.
Yeah. So yeah, if anything truly crazy happens, maybe we'll jump on and react to it before this drops. But we're recording it the night before, so hopefully everyone has fun seeing those 3 Cubs in the All-Star game. Yeah. But yeah, we're at the break. I'll do. We're going to talk about our predictions, right, Adam? From the beginning of the year, we're going to check in. I guess current events.
Both grade the Cubs and grade ourselves, I guess.
Yes. I'll do just a quick update of like current Cubs news. Ian Happ has been truly on fire lately. And to me, almost the more notable thing is after playing nothing but outfield, basically in most of this first half, he's played. I saw 5 games at second base recently, so they're starting to get Ian Happ in at second base, which is exciting. Hopefully.
If only the Cubs had a second baseman who was both underperforming and a bad person that they could send down.
If only there was an easy 1-for-1 swap. Yeah. That would be nice. And
first, Happ's coming up. Robel's going down.
Oh yeah. Oh man. And I mean, Robel two homers. This week. That's what you get from him. Homers and strikeouts. But it's bringing a little excitement up for good. So good for him. Also, shout out to Anthony Rizzo giving the great celebration after Robel's first homer against the White Sox. So Robel played for Team Italy. Rizzo played for Team Italy, and Rizzo gave Robel a kiss on each cheek, very European style, very Italian, Tony Soprano style after that home run. So that was a great celebration. Speaking of Robel, and the other news down from the farm, Nico Hoerner he was playing a lot of shortstop earlier in the year. He's back from his injury. Cubs first-round draft pick last year, who's been tearing it up whenever he's been actually on the field. He's been playing some second base as well, and today he got his first start in center field. So that's interesting.
Okay.
And found out we saw that via our friend, the prospect expert, Cubs prospect expert, and appropriately at Cub Prospects on Twitter, Brian Smith. He also said that he timed Nico 4.1 seconds to first base, which is well above average speed-wise. So something else to think about. But yeah, so that's.
Do you think there's any shot whatsoever that we see Nico anytime this year?
Man, this season's been so weird. I would say there almost is an outside. I would have said absolutely not, even if he had been healthy to this point. Yeah. I would have said absolutely not a month ago. But I think right now, if he stays healthy and stays doing what he's doing, he's absolutely in play for opening day. And I think with them bringing Robel up when they did, I think they're open to more things that they might not have been if the Cubs were performing across the board like they should. So I think nothing's off the table right now.
So are we? I guess this may be jumping ahead, but looking at where the Cubs are at right now. Are we kind of in a 2017 position where it's like they're going to need to prove to Epstein and Hoyer coming out of the gate that they're good enough to warrant adding pieces rather than subtracting them or doing nothing?
I mean, yeah, a little bit. Yeah. I also think it's like I don't know. I was trying to come up with like an analogy with a parent that like threatens something to a kid but doesn't really mean it, or like I think they don't expect to be sellers, even if they're saying, "Well, we'll see." I think it's kind of not that it's a fake threat, but I don't see that happening. In 2017, I mean, the Cubs had a losing record. Around this time, so it was. So I think that was almost, even though they were coming off the World Series win, I would say it was a more serious possible sell situation. This one, I feel like it's going to be buy or stand pat, basically.
Right.
How do you
feel?
feel?
Yeah, I think that's probably accurate. And I mean, the Cubs, conversely, compared to like 2015, where they won 97 games and finished in third, it's becoming pretty obvious that because of the depth in the Central, and or the fact that just nobody seems to be stepping up, they're still in first place.
Yeah.
And you don't feel good about being in first 4 games over 500, but the bottom line is they're still in first place. So there would be no reason not to add.
No, yeah, absolutely. I every year is sacred, and the Cubs, you don't sell from a first place team because first place gets you in the playoffs. So, you don't sell from a first place team. And then again, the last place team in the Central is 4.5 games back of the first place team, that's basically what we expected at the beginning of the year, something close to that, except we expected kind of everybody to be better, but the Reds at 5 games under 500 are only 4.5 back. So
those sleeveless jerseys look pretty good.
Yeah, showing off a lot of guns over there.
Dietrich and Puig certainly have the biggest arms on that team.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure those dudes would just go straight shirts and skins if that was allowed by the league. Next Players Weekend, clothing optional. Everybody, just get out there. Yeah. Any other current stuff before we go into our sort of half season look back and grade ourselves?
Yeah, I don't think so, unless I'm missing anything. I mean, looking forward to the All-Star game, and it's always fun to see our boys out there, but this time it doesn't count.
Yes, this time it sure does not. Yeah.
Cool. Although this would actually be a year where it would be nice if it did, because then if the NL won and the Cubs somehow got to the World Series with their presumably 88-74 record, it would be nice to just get home field when you don't deserve it.
Right. This would be a chance, because really in the National League, it seems like, the Dodgers could have home field and that's about it, Yeah.
So, do you want to start with like evaluating ourselves, or do we want to do some kind of general like Cubs grades?
Either way, you lead, Adam. You tell me what you want to, what we're grading here. You did Adam crunched the numbers. He went back and checked out our season preview episode, and what, sort of what we looked at for the, what we were predicting back then.
Yeah. Well, let's start there. So we naturally made a bunch of predictions, about a week before the season. It was myself, Kevin, and the previously alluded to Ken Schultz. So let's just start from the top. So we were guessing overall Cubs MVP. Ken went with KB and also asserted that he will have a better year than Bryce Harper. That's probably the case right now, right? Statistically,
certainly had a better Bryce Harper.
Yeah.
Bryce Harper basically had a nearly like not identical, but a similar statistic year to Jason Hayward this year, and KB has been better than that. Yeah, so Ken nailed the KB Bryce comparison for sure.
Yeah, so Ken said, none of us really went out on too much of a limb, but for overall Cubs MVP, Ken said KB, you said Rizzo, and I said Contreras, and I said that this could be the year that it all comes together for our boy Wilson. So I'm happy with that as a prediction, and I think that Rizzo's certainly having a good year.
I think this is a situation where we're all right, and and also so is Baez. You know what I mean? So it's like basically, I think you can make a case for probably 4 guys, on this team to be the team's MVP, and it's KB, Rizzo, Contreras, and Baez. I think those are the 4. So
not a lot to break down there. So for the next one, we were talking about who's going to be the breakout star. You and Kevin, or you are Kevin. I am Kevin. Yes. You and Ken both said Schwartz, and I said Almora, and I think I also mentioned about Almora that it seemed to me that this was his Russell year of a couple of years ago, where it was like, okay, either he is just what he's been, or there is something more to unlock. And unfortunately, it seems like we're kind of seeing what Almora is.
Nothing has been unlocked yet, and it's really too bad because when we were making these predictions, it was in the spring, and Almora really looked like he was getting the ball in the air more. And then to this point in the year, he's put the ball on the ground more than he has in any other year. So that you just can't do that. It sucks because Almora has, he's hit a few homers more than you'd expect. Thank you, Juice Ball. But also the guy does have strength. He just has not made the swing adjustment to really make his strength and his ability to make contact do any actual damage. So, yeah, I think it is.
His hair looks great.
His hair looks great. His defense is good. Obviously, he seems to be a great guy. Everyone loves him. But he's sort of – right now, he's Jason Hayward from last year and 2 years ago is what we have in Almora. Basically an underperforming offensive guy. Who is good defensively and a great guy in the clubhouse, but is disappointing that it doesn't seem like there is more offense there.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, as for Schwarber, I mean, how do you feel about that as a prediction? I
think he's playing well. I think he's played well in the leadoff spot, but I wouldn't say he hasn't broken out to the sort of heights that we'd expect, but he has been hotter over the last month. And a comparison I make a lot is, just how long it takes most, mortals to find themselves offensively at the major league level. And coming into this year at bat wise, Schwarber basically had as many at bats in the majors as Javi had going into last year. So it's like, which was Javi's breakout year. So I still think Schwarber can break out even more. I think he's played well, but no one's really, the real breakout star, the real breakout as we meant it with this prediction, a guy who takes a big jump from last year's Cubs is Tommy La Stella, but he's doing that with Anaheim. So, in terms of someone who really broke out, that it's Tommy La Stella.
And truly a bummer that he doesn't get to be in the All-Star game.
It sucks because it's who knows if he'll get another chance. And at least he was named an All-Star. He'll always have that. He'll get to be there for the introductions and stuff. But it would.
The Angels, it's just piling on at this point. I mean, obviously losing Skaggs is in a completely different category, and that's just awful. But in 1 week, they lost a teammate, La Stella, who was such a bright spot for them and about to go to the All-Star game for probably the only time in his career. Yeah, shattered his leg on a foul pitch or a foul ball, and then Lucroy got absolutely demolished at home plate. I don't know if you saw that play.
Yeah, but Jake Marisnick.
Marisnick is claiming that it was like he just kind of made the wrong choice and wasn't trying to be dirty. But I mean, Lucroy is concussed and broke his nose, and that was you just don't see collisions like that anymore.
No, you're not supposed to dive in running with the shoulder like that. I
All-Star game shit.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think it was intentional, but I think it was careless and clumsy. Is what it was. And Marisnick runs really well, and he's 6'4", 220, so that's a lot coming in. And he's
going to get drilled the next time they play each other.
Oh, surely, yeah.
But hopefully that would be a situation where he knows he screws up, he'll take one in the butt and run to first.
Yeah. I would not be surprised to see any of that. We had our next thing we had was picking a bounce back player, right? And I I guess I don't remember, but I said Contreras or Darvish. So I guess one and one.
I think the consensus was for all of us to say obviously KB, but then beyond that, I think you were like, well, it's you got to hope it's Contreras or Darvish.
Right.
So I guess it has been Contreras and hasn't really been Darvish.
Yeah, Darvish is dangerously nearing the point where it's like, are you just not? I mean, are you good or what, buddy? So hopefully he goes good for the rest of the year. But the man has a 5 ERA at the All-Star break. That's not good. So
hater.
I'm a hater. Everybody pile on. I think 5 ERAs are bad. Okay, so regression. Someone we said for possible regression. I'm looking at my predict here. I fucked up. I said Hamels could regress. He's been great.
It's not weird to have predicted that a couple of old lefties would regress.
Sure.
I think that's Yeah, I guess Ken said Lester, you said Hamels or Lester, and I said Zobrist. And
you nailed it.
Yeah, I didn't know his personal life would also regress to the degree that it has, and that certainly sucks. But before he left the team, he was not hitting well at all. I think he was hitting like 230.
Right. With one extra base hit, although it helped lead us to a win in Arizona. But
that was that was a nice double down the line. So I guess I was right about that. And it's nice that neither Hamels nor Lester have regressed that much. Lester's had kind of a weird year, but Hamels certainly has been really strong, and hopefully he comes back soon. All right, this one's interesting. Most important bullpen arm. Ken said Strop, and both you and I said C.J. Edwards, and I also apparently said that he was kind of coming into like the same sort of season as Almora in terms of like, do we have something here or do we not have something? And unfortunately, to this point, it doesn't really look like he's been able to put it together.
And I mean, he's just been hurt a lot lately. Before he went on the IL this last time, he actually had a really good run going. So and CJ does have a track record of dominant runs and some full-on good years. So I am more confident that he can come back and be a real contributor. But I think you got to say, without a doubt, the most important bullpen arm just has been Steve Cishek, right? Like when I think of who's the most important arm this year so far, Strop has battled injuries. He's had more inconsistency than he ever has as one of the most consistent Cubs relievers in friggin' history. But
I feel like I haven't seen Cishek pitch a lot recently. Am I imagining that?
I mean, part of that's the losing, I think, right? You know, but I think just through the course of this, he's closed some really important games. He's been the guy you call in early in a high leverage spot. I think he still does lead the team in relief appearances. But yeah, so I think the real answer is Steve Cishek. But yeah, our picks were Strop, and you and I both said CJ. So.
Yep. All right, this one's fun. One bold prediction. I think Ken nailed it again. Last year, Ken was talking about Hayward having a big signature moment, which he did with that grand slam against the Phillies, and he said that Chatwood would have a Chatwood game this year in a good way, and he did. He had that great start at Wrigley, where I think he went like 6 or 7, and did he give up no runs, or was it one? I mean, I forget what it was, but I know he had that really good start.
Yeah, dominant spot start at Wrigley, leading to an important win. And then I would say there could be 2 Tyler Chatwood games, because there was the Arizona one where he came in out of the bullpen, pitched great, and then knocked in the winning run, right, with a double to right center.
You know what? I think they actually lost that game.
They lost that game?
I think so. Well, yeah, I know what you're talking about, where he... Oh, no. Okay, there's a couple games, yeah.
Because they lost a game against Philly where he had a double to left, which almost helped them come back. And then Schwarber and Contreras had horrific at-bats.
But yes. The one, I think it was that same Zobrist game, the extra inning game.
Right. Yeah.
That you're talking about in Arizona, where Chatwood doubled, and then they ended up winning like 14 or 15 innings.
Yeah. So Ken got that.
I'm pretty happy with my prediction, yeah.
Yeah, tell us.
So my prediction was that 5 Cubs would hit more than 25 home runs, and the people that I named were Rizzo, KB, Wilson, Javi, and Schwarbs. And to this point, I'm looking at it now. Rizzo has... Where's Rizzo?
They're all on pace.
They're all certainly on pace. Yeah, Rizzo has 19 home runs. Contreras has 18. Baez has 22. KB has 17, and Schwarbs has 18. So I mean. Maybe I undershot it. Maybe they all have 30.
Yeah, I mean, if they stay on pace, that's 5 guys with 30, and then you're also talking about, Hayward's on pace for 20. And it's 25. You give them the at bats, so they'll pile on. And then,
yeah, that's pretty good. And then your pick. Go ahead.
My pick, which I was feeling no one wins 20 games anymore. So this was a just fuck it, I'll throw one out. I said Hendricks wins 20. He's sitting here 7-7, but he was really on a great streak in that first half until he had to miss a few starts, and then a relatively tough luck loss when the Cubs could only get him 1 run against the White Sox. You really thought Hendricks versus Nova was going to be a win, but yeah.
But the Cubs can't hit Nova.
No. But can hit the shit out of Lucas Giolito, so that's
very confusing. All right. Okay, so trade deadline prediction. I guess Will Smith, which certainly seems like a possibility.
Fingers crossed. I mean, that's a prediction that makes a lot of sense and would be one of the top things on a wish list, And I said someone like Terrence Gore or Billy Hamilton, basically just trying to shop for that one tool, that automatic steal guy for a postseason run, which I could still see them doing.
Yeah.
But they would. I mean, I think it's tough with the way the Cubs roster is set up right now, because I don't think either of those guys would be someone you'd have on the 25-man roster right now. I think certainly Terrence Gore wouldn't be. So it's a tough thing. So it would maybe more have to be Gore, so you could stash him in Iowa, for a while, and then bring him up late. But both good predictions. I'd be happy with all that.
Yeah. Then we did win predictions. I guess I had the lowest guess. I said 90. You said 93. Ken said 95. As we sit at this moment, the Cubs are on pace for somewhere between 84 and 85 wins. I still think all of our guesses are possible. I think that I would be inclined to say that around 90 is closer to where they'll end up. Hopefully, I'm guessing and hoping that they'll have a better second half, and they've proven themselves to be a great second half team. But yeah, I think we were all fairly close there.
I think so too, and I think your prediction's looking the best. My logic was basically the division is better, the Cubs are better. Even though they had 95 wins last year, I'll take a couple wins off for the division being better across the board, landing at 93. But yeah, honestly, at this point, with the Cubs being on pace for 84, 85, I do expect them to be better. But I think landing around what you said, 90 is, that's looking the most hopeful / likely.
Right. And as I said, I believe last week when we spoke, fuck it, I'll take an 83-win season where there's a World Series at the end. We can be like the 2006 Cardinals if we have to.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, totally. I would like to give me a division winner. I don't want to fuck with this wild card stuff anymore. Right. That was not as fun. But
yeah, and again, I mean, no matter what happens, if the Cubs lose in the playoffs, it's going to suck. But to see them lose 2 straight years in a 1-game playoff would really, really, really suck.
Yeah, it's this team and the way it's set up, the window we're in, that should not be happening.
Right.
It just shouldn't. There should be a run of division titles, and that was snapped already last year.
Well, yeah, and you don't know what would have happened last year, but if the Cubs somehow just hold on to that division and then go into the playoffs facing the wild card team and having the best record in the NL, which they were extremely close to, who the hell knows?
Right. Yeah, totally.
Maybe they would have gotten knocked out by the Brewers in the first round, but they also could have had it come together and won a World Series. You don't know.
Right, and it's a thing where if you believe your team it has the best 25-man roster. If you're the best, you want to get to a series, not a coin flip. You want, because it's more likely that the better team prevails in that situation. So,
cool. So then we predicted the playoff teams overall. In the NL, your division winners were the Nats, Cubs, and Dodgers. Ken had the same as you. And actually, I think all three of us had the same division winners. So we all said Nats, Cubs, and Dodgers. Dodgers very much looking good. Cubs, I hope, are good, and the NL East could go any which way. So Nats, I feel like, are as good a pick as any. I know they're probably a bit out of first because Atlanta's leading by a bit, but they're in there.
The Nats look like they could be on the verge of being sellers before, but the Nats are a half game better than the Cubs are right now.
Yeah.
At this point, so they had a really hot June. They have a really good roster. And it seems like they're finally starting to put it together in a way that they haven't in a couple years now, at least not in the Davey Martinez era.
And we all pretty much, I mean, in the NL, we pretty much all had the same teams. Your wild card teams were the Brewers and Cardinals. Ken said the same. And I said Phillies and Cardinals.
Yeah.
All of which seems possible, but who knows?
Right.
AL teams, you went with the Yankees, Indians, and Astros as your division winners. And wild card Red Sox and Angels. So the only one there that looks like an outlier is the Angels. I mean, the Indians at this point don't look like they'll win the division, but you know, who knows? None of us have the Twins. I don't think a lot of people in baseball did.
No, yeah, and the Twins are kicking ass. As if the season ended today, the Indians would be in the playoffs with the Rays. It would be the Rays and the Indians playing in the wild card game.
And I did have the Rays, so I'm proud.
Yeah. There you go.
Totally. My division winners were the Red Sox, Indians, and Astros. Those first two don't look as good. And then I had the Yankees and Rays as my wild card. And Ken had Red Sox, Indians, Astros, and Yankees and A's. So I don't know where the Athletics are, but I don't think they're really in contention for that, are they?
They're close. The A's are actually the 1.5 games out of the wild card.
Oh,
right?
there you go. So pretty much everything that we predicted seems like possible.
I think overall you probably, if you could somehow assign points in an abstract way across all our predictions, I think you would come out slightly ahead. You hit some good ones.
Hell yeah!
In my head here. So there you go.
Don't you forget it.
I won't.
Yeah. And then the real shocker, who did we pick to win the World Series?
I think we all had similar ideas about that.
We all had you had the boldest pick, which was the Cubs sweeping the Yankees. Which
I'll stick with it. Yeah, just thought, let's just be a total grind until the World Series and then get weird and no stress whatsoever and just wipe the Yankees off.
Or it could be a stressful sweep like when the White Sox beat the Astros. Just win every game by like one.
Yeah, every game is super tight, but you just win all the time. Would be lovely. Yeah.
Ken picked the Cubs over the Red Sox in 7, and I picked the Cubs over the Astros in 6.
And I think Cubs Astros would be the most appropriate World Series. Like sort of the marquee teams over the last of this era, I think, and the Dodgers, you could say, as well. But yeah, that would be an appropriate World Series.
And I got to tell you, I'm fine with any of those 3 scenarios.
Yeah, any of our 3 scenarios would be fine with me. Yeah. So that's our predictions.
Yeah, real quick. I don't even want to talk about it too much because it was very frustrating. But in the past week since the last time we talked, we have to have the candidate for worst game of the year. That game in Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah.
Can you think of a worst game?
I mean, not this year. There've been some bad ones, but the Philadelphia one we just mentioned, but that game against Pittsburgh where somehow KB and Hayward were unavailable, even though I think they both played the next day, right? Unless I'm missing something.
Yeah.
And so we had catcher Wilson Contreras playing in right field, who saved the game by throwing out a runner at home with just an absolute perfect throw.
Yeah, that's awesome.
From right field, and the Cubs basically bring in Kimbrel in the 9th with a lead, a game they really needed to win. And it was a blown save, but all Kimbrel did wrong really was walk a guy.
Yeah.
He walked a guy, and then, Then
there was a misplay by Contreras, which was not a gimme, but a misplay nonetheless. So
with the catcher,
third.
Yeah.
And then Addison Russell playing back fields a ground ball and throws it home and doesn't take accountability for it, which really drives me nuts.
He was playing back. He threw home, but even hesitated on the throw home.
He clutched it.
Yeah. And then afterwards says he still thinks it was the good play or the right play. Also said he thought he was playing too far back. That's the purpose. That is why you're playing back, is to take the out at first. And you can argue about whether that's the right call from Madden or not. But once you're playing back, it's decided. When the ball comes to you, now you throw to first. That it was just insanely low baseball IQ from a guy who seems stupid otherwise. Who seems and apparently baseball stupid and probably even more human stupid. Yeah, that was terrible. Kimbrel walks a guy, gives up a pop fly to a catcher playing right field in a one-run game, which sucks. And Contreras did everything he could, but couldn't quite corral it. Misplay there by Russell, on a soft dribbler to second, and
that should have been the second out. And then what would have been the third out, a fly ball from Frazier, scores the winning run. And oh man, not my favorite game this year.
No.
But before we go, and I guess maybe make a couple of second half predictions if that makes sense. Give me real quick, give me some grades. So let's just say
sure.
Offense, defense, starting pitching, relief pitching. Give me your first half grades for the Cubs.
Okay, it's it's interesting just thinking about it because each one to me feels like a big mixed bag. Mm-hmm. Offense, I'm going to say, this might feel weirdly optimistic, but I would say offense would be like a B. There are a lot of the individual guys who you think of the cornerstones of this team have played very well. Obviously, weirdly, they have not hit well in score with runners in scoring position for what I believe 100th year in a row. So that sucks. And KB has particularly struggled with that. But KB's numbers are exactly in line with his MVP year right now. Rizzo is having arguably the best first half of his life. Contreras is the best catcher in baseball. Suck it, if you think otherwise.
Javi's been great. Hayward's having a bounce back year.
Yes, and Schwarber's been good. And
even guys like Caratini, yeah, exactly.
Victor Caratini, backup catcher. The catching situation for the Cubs overall, A+ to me. And people have qualms with framing and stuff. There's a really good piece in The Athletic about how the framing stuff is even overstated with Wilson and Cubs catching in general. I believe Patrick Mooney wrote that piece. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but it's worth checking out. Catching situation overall, A to A+. Offensively, really the problem is the Cubs, who we know are good offensively or should be good, have been. The guys who were maybes have been mucho stinko. It has been very bad. Addison Russell's not been good. He actually did play well offensively for a 2-week run recently, but Addison Russell's been not good overall. Almora's been very disappointing. Ian
Descalso has been bad.
Descalso.
That?
Oh, yeah. Yes, that was a good turn and a turn. Descalso's been a mistake, it turns out. It's a thing where Daniel Descalso's career was closer to what Daniel Descalso was, as opposed to a 1-year launch angle breakout. So I think offense, it's weird because it's a bunch of F's
on offense. Yeah, I think,
it's several F's and a bunch of B+ A-. So it's weird.
The Descalsos of the world are bringing down the curve.
Yeah, exactly. So
defense,
I'll say C. Because,
which is surprising.
Yeah, because I'm grading on a curve a little here because it's even if the defensive stats are better than a C, this bunch of defenders shouldn't be a C. So what the fuck's going on? There's been more mental lapses than there should be,
and errors on the base paths.
Yes, very much so. Rizzo's had a bunch of weird base path errors. Wilson is a fast catcher. He's one of the couple fastest catchers in the league. But still has not really. He's a guy who is too aggressive sometimes too. But yeah, base running, I would say it's been C+ ish.
And then how about starting pitching and relief pitching?
Starting pitching has been, everyone's been taking turns at being an A pitcher. You know what I mean? Darvish had a brief window of light, and otherwise, but you'd have to say he himself is a C- D+ overall. That's what the numbers are. Hendricks has been great. Lester's been mostly very good with a couple of games that he got shellacked. Hamels has been great. So I think starting pitching overall, you got to say is at least a B, right?
Yeah, I would say.
And Alzolay came up and was good for 2 and then got absolutely hammered in his other game. Alzolay, excuse me. But yeah. And
then relief pitching.
Man, it's just the B- ass team right now, I feel like, Yeah. What would you say for relief pitching?
Well, it was so bad early on.
Right.
I mean, we started at lower than an F.
It was sub F. It was incomplete. It was, how'd you even get into the school in the first place? You were never admitted. It was fraudulent relief pitching to begin the year for sure, blowing it all over the place. But then it was elite for a while, and now it's coming into shape a little bit. Kimbrel I think is fine. We saw the velocity came almost completely back as soon as he had major league adrenaline.
Well, there have been some real bright spots. We've seen a lot out of Kinsler that you would not have predicted after how much he struggled last year. But then you've also had guys like Brock who are walking the world, and Montgomery who has really just overall been pretty bad this year.
He has been, and it is insane. And I don't know why beat writers will not ask, why do you guys think Montgomery's a left-on-left specialist? He's never had those numbers.
Very weird.
He never had those numbers. He doesn't have those numbers this year. He's a reverse split guy because he has an excellent changeup. He's a guy who makes much more sense as a long reliever or a starter. And even they brought him in, I forget exactly what the game was. It was a week, or was it a Pittsburgh game maybe, where he gives up a homer immediately left on left. And then not a run for the following 3 innings. Mm-hmm. So he ended up pitching very well, but he's just not a left-on-left guy, and someone needs to get it through their fucking brains. The numbers don't say that. Your eyes don't say that. Logic doesn't say that he should be used that way, and he's been very misused.
Yep. Yeah. I think all that is on point. So looking at the second half, I mean, first of all, right out of the gate, and we talked about this before, you've got a 9-game homestand, 3 against the Pirates, 3 against the Reds, 3 against the Padres. And none of those are gimmies, but you really, really, really need to come out of the gate with like a 6-3 at minimum homestand here, in my mind.
Yeah, me too. I think there's no more. Also, the Cubs did have a long stretch of a lot of games and a lot of days. End of last year, that was absurd and should not have happened, the run they had to the end. But I am done hearing about how tough it is for the Cubs to play baseball all the time. Right. Depth should be a strength for a team like this. And all the teams play the same number of games. We're talking about a difference of 1 to 2 off days in the first half of a season. You're not allowed to be that tired. I'm sorry. That cannot be the reason why you're not playing up to speed. So it has to start this instant. They have to
to your point, it's like it's really annoying to keep complaining about something that every team has to face in some capacity. You can't just like. I remember when I used to play tennis and we would play people and they'd be like, "It's so windy." It's also windy on this side of the court. Like,
yes,
it's just not a good rationale.
No, it's not. And the Cubs specifically, even, I remember Rizzo and KB saying specifically that they felt like they talked about it too much at the end of last year. And I don't know that I haven't heard the players talking about it this year. So it's not that. But I just think it can't be a narrative. That is not, that's not why they're underperforming. It's not because they're playing baseball too much. Sorry. So yeah, I think they, as you said, it would be very disappointing to not be 6-3 or better coming out of this stretch. It is time. The season starts right now. This is it. It's good now or you're not.
Well, yeah, and so you've got that homestand, then you've got 3 in San Francisco, and then at the end of the month it gets real interesting. You got a weekend series in Milwaukee, then you've got a series in St. Louis, and then it's August. So we're not talking about that much left of the season. So I assume, as usual, you and I will be fairly optimistic. But what are you looking for in the second half, and how do you see it playing out?
I'm looking for this team to get to 90 wins in a big picture way. Get to 90, and I think they can, and I think they will. But I'm also looking for to quit fucking around with this roster and to stop having the best 25 men that you employ not as the 25 active players.
Well, yeah, and we've talked about it a number of times, but it's hard to justify having Descalso, Russell, and even, I'm sorry, Montgomery on the team right now.
Yeah, and Brock too. Brock he came back a little bit and was better. I like of the guys you mentioned, honestly, you could say Addison Russell's was a premier prospect who has been effective in the majors before. Mm-hmm. So you could say there's some untapped ceiling there, I guess, if you wanted to argue that way. But to me, you cannot justify Descalso as one of the 25. He's got to get.
You really can't. Yeah.
He's got to get cargoed.
Yep.
I think Montgomery's he's not been effective, but I also think he's been used so wrong that I have a little more optimism for him. But I want Ian Happ up immediately, DFA Descalso, and then I would prefer to swap Russell out for someone too. I mean, guys are going to get activated, obviously, when CJ comes back and stuff like that. I'm ready to see the roster be what it's supposed to be, I guess, is the other thing I'm looking for. Enough fucking around this first half. Put your best roster on the field, and also how about start them? That would be cool also. Quit giving away at bats to people who are not major league hitters.
Right. And I mean, it's tough to play that game of like, if the Cubs end up losing the division by 1 game, you can look back at the game in Pittsburgh. Because, if you're doing that, then you can also look at games that the Cubs won that they probably shouldn't have.
Sure.
But it feels like there are more games the Cubs have lost that they should have won than vice versa.
Yeah, it does. And this is a team that it should be better, and hopefully they will be. So it's looking for this team to look like, to have them Dennis Green-wise, be they are who we thought they were. Let's see, let's see that happen. Yeah.
Anything else?
I'm good. That's it for me.
All right, cool. Follow us at awaygamespod on Twitter and Instagram. Call us cucks if you must.
Do it.
That'll happen sometimes. Fuck you, Smokies.
Yeah,
and awaygamespodcast@gmail.com if you want to yell at us or whatever you want to do. Or, conversely, if you want to leave us a nice rating on iTunes, we would certainly appreciate that.
That's
Subscribe,
also nice.
Do all of that stuff. Go to Kevin's shows. And I think that is it. We will see you in the second half.
Let's do it. Have to, baby.